From toddlers to teens,
and social media to screens.
we have so much to be mindful about as parents in the digital age.
Bruh.
As Black and brown moms with 6 kids between us, we're excited to be partnering with Meta, a company that is committed to supporting parents in this digital age and to be answering some of parents' biggest questions about technology, safety, and raising resilient kids.
We'll double click on AI, technology, and online safety through expert insights and our own parenting wins and fails, because none of us have this figured out.
I'm Samantha Danielle, content creator, writer, and mom of 3 teens.
I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, TV journalist, podcast host, and mom of Irish triplets in elementary school.
And this is Parenting in the Digital Age with Sam
and Kanika, brought to you by Meta. Welcome to Parenting in the Digital Age with Sam and Kanika, brought to you by Meta, where 2 moms dive into the world of raising kids who are digital natives.
I'm Samantha Danielle.
And I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta.
And together we're unpacking the biggest parenting challenges of our time, from AI in schools to social media.
Today, we're joined by someone who is redefining K-12 education. Audrey Wisch is the founder of Curious Cardinals, a platform connecting students with inspiring college mentors to spark passion and purpose in their learning.
We'll be talking about how we can help our kids become engaged learners and what the future of education really looks like.
Let's get curious. We are so ready to reprogram our learning and learn more about how AI is changing K-12 education. Please welcome Audrey Wisch. She's the founder of Curious Cardinals. Audrey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I wanna show some of the swag we have here. This is a t-shirt. Can't wait to wear it. Stay curious. And then this. Love it. Curiosity.
Curiosity is superpower.
It really is.
Samantha, I'm going to need your address to ship you some swag next.
I love it. And it's in my favorite color. And I loved your saying curiosity is power. It really is. I love to say that, leaning into curiosity. So it's a really cool slogan. So thank you.
It's something that applies to parents and kids alike. And we're just so excited to get into all the wisdom that you have to share with parents, because I still consider you kind of a kid, young adults.
I'll take it. I'll own it.
So I want to share how we met. Our common friend, Candace Nelson, put us in touch. She is the founder of Sprinkles and Pizzana, and she's an entrepreneur and investor. And she told me about you and the brand. And I just want to give you a testimonial at the jump, because my kids have Curious Cardinals mentors. And they started when they were in 1st grade. They had a mentor in Sarayu who was a sophomore at Stanford. And you taught my 1st grade twins CAD, computer aided design.
Oh.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think they had the interest, the attention span, the capability to do that. But you're just opening a whole new world with your brand. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you for the kind testimonial and for believing in us. And it's wonderful to meet values-aligned parents who just already celebrate the values of our work. And that's like the puzzle piece fit. So it's a privilege, and I hope we get to support your kids all the way through high school to one day be mentors.
Yes, I love it. That's the full circle journey. But now I think we've piqued enough curiosity of our viewers. What is Curious Cardinals all about?
Yes, so Curious Cardinals is a personalized mentorship platform. We connect K-12 students to college-age mentors to unlock potential. Specifically, we help with academic mentorship. Tutoring is the T word because it has a connotation of being transactional, a remedy for Friday's test, and passion projects, exploring interests and pursuing meaningful projects. Curious Cardinals was born very organically. I was a history major at Stanford who thought I was pre-law with my 10-year life plan set and aspirations to be the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then Stanford sent us home my freshman year because of the pandemic. And longing for purpose and meaning, I started tutoring kids online, and working with them observed how disengaged and uninspired they were with what they were learning in school, and how they were absorbing and regurgitating what they were reading in a textbook, but they didn't know why they were learning what they were learning. So I started applying what they were learning in school to their interests. One of the Maths for Math help, and I was not as passionate about math. That's where Alec, my eventual co-founder, came into the picture. Alec was an aerospace engineer at Stanford, and he started applying what they were learning in math to how airplanes fly. And they fast forward, they started telling all their friends, and we realized it was like putting spinach in their milkshake. Learning was good for them. It was nurturing their minds and souls and inspiration, but they didn't even think of it as learning. They thought about it as something they genuinely lit up about and got excited about and looked forward to. And it was the combination of personalized learning and learning from someone you see yourself in. We really believe you are what you can see. Representation matters is a core value at Curious Cardinals. And whether it's your race, your gender, your personality, your passion for soccer, your obsession with Taylor Swift, we want to match you to a mentor who you can see yourself in. And so we help with academics, we help with exploring interests, and across the board, that personalized mentor match is really the secret sauce where we unlock something in a student that maybe they didn't realize they had within them.
Wow. That is such a unique idea, and I know it's very impactful. I have teenagers, my kids are 15, 17, and 19. So I'm definitely going to be jumping on your platform immediately after this. People hear the term mentorship, but a lot of times it's always, um, sometimes feels like it's only for certain people if you're lucky enough to have someone or know someone, but you're literally taking the hard work out, you're bridging the gap, and you're making it accessible for a large group of people. So this is so needed. Thank you for doing this. I do want to ask you, because you're in the educational space, you're in the mentorship space. How do you feel? Because I know you mentioned the pandemic. I feel like so many things have changed in education since the pandemic to now, including the use of AI. What is your stance on AI in the educational space? Do you think it's good? Do you think what is your perspective? What do you think?
Great question. Well, let me start with at a high level, I believe in being curious. And so it's something to get curious about. As I said, I was the history major, humanities gal. My co-founder is the engineer who's always been championing ways we can leverage technology to do what we do better. And it was in a month after ChatGPT launched that a Curious Cardinals mom, who's also a mentor to me, I'm actually with her right now because we were at a conference together yesterday. Her name is Desiree. She's the CMO of Salesforce AI now. She called me and said, Audrey, you want to change the future of K through 12 education? You've got to hop on the AI bandwagon. I said, okay, no questions asked. I've got to overcome my fear and my discomfort. I need to get over this. I'm not a STEM tech gal, and I've got to learn to embrace this firsthand. And so I was curious. I said, I'm going to play around. I'm going to explore the platform, the tools. 15 minutes a day, I'm going to play with ChatGPT or Claude, and I'm just going to build an understanding. And 1 month later, of 15 minutes daily, I was hooked. I am a crazy, scrappy startup founder who works 12 to 16-hour days, use it in every single hour of my working day. It has changed my life. And there's three dimensions to my excitement. It's personal productivity. Is it replacing my creativity, my deep thoughts? No, it's giving me more time and more efficiency to be more creative, to be more thoughtful, to have more headspace to do what I do best. Two is on a business applications level. Is it replacing our mentors? Am I pitching you a mentor bot? No. We are using it as a tool to amplify, not replace our mentors. It allows us to make sure we are delivering quality. We are aligning with the Curious Cardinals methodology. Every parent gets insights and reports on their students' learning and progress over time. And then three is as it pertains to the future of K through 12 education. Of course, there's so many ways this tool can go wrong. Of course, there's so many ways you can cut corners in learning. But in many ways, I'm optimistic because Albert Einstein in a pre-digital age said, don't memorize what you can already look up.
Come on.
Yet we still ask kids to absorb and regurgitate what they read in a textbook. So I believe it's a call to action to raise the bar for how we educate, inspire, and empower the next generation.
That is a really great way of thinking and framing that. And I think you answered what I was going to ask you. Is it the future or is it a threat? You took away fear. You started off with saying, you know what? Because I think a lot of things with where we're at right now in technology is just people are not familiar with it, so it's scary. And as soon as something, when we're not educated on something and it's scary, we put it in the bad category. But you said, I'm gonna lean into it, figure it out 15 minutes a day. You leaned into curiosity, which I love. And so I'm gonna say that you say it's the future, not something as a threat. Thank you, Audrey. Okay.
Yes. And as millennials, something that, we look back on is how we did look things up, but the technology was nowhere near as advanced as it is now. So, Sam, if you remember CD-ROMs,
Of course.
the Cardallo, the good old card catalog at the library, or a microfiche where we had to read the tiny print of a newspaper that was on there on the screen. So we really had to rough it out, and I think it's hard for parents to adopt a new technology and get that tech fluency. So how do we overcome that? Let's start from parents, and then how we can teach our kids.
Yeah. Not to be a broken record, but you just have to be curious. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna make you frustrated. It's gonna make you feel visceral discomfort. I've taught 75 intraday AI workshops for parents in the last 21 months. And that's so empowering. It's empowering to share parents how this can be a tool to amplify, not replace. But I see that discomfort firsthand. I see frustration. I see, well, does this mean my kid's not going to learn how to write an email? Does this mean this and this? And the only way you're really going to be able to understand how it's going to change your kid's life is if you understand it firsthand. If you put it out of this black box and you leverage it as a tool yourself. One, that's how you'll be able to have thoughtful conversations with your kid. Two, that's going to be how you build their trust. Parents are used to hearing their kids say, you don't get it. That's why a mentor at Curious Cardinals is great, because it's someone who was in their shoes not too long ago, who grew up online, who had their education halted by the pandemic. We get it. We speak the same language. And parents don't. One way, though, to build trust when you say, hey, I don't want you using AI in this way, is to show them you understand how it works. And so that's really where we are for K through 12 kids. But I'm teaching all these workshops for parents because I believe the greatest way that we ensure our kids have a safe and productive and thoughtful AI future is for the adults in the room to be informed. I think kids left to their own devices literally is never a good thing. And to be able to understand where this could go right and where this could go wrong, as well as to have the trust and credibility for your kid to listen to you, you've got to understand.
Could you give us actual tools? Like, we want our parents to take their pens out and take notes. What are some of the AI tools that parents can start as a jumping point?
Don't overcomplicate it. Go to Google's Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, or Anthropic's Claude. You can choose one, you can choose three, and just start talking with it. Ask it questions. One of my favorites, do either of you have picky eaters?
Of course. If you have kids, you have picky eaters. Yeah.
So my lesson is, the more you know where you want to go, the better AI will be to help you get there.
Okay.
So think about AI like a GPS navigation system. Tell it I want to go somewhere fun, it might bring you to a bar or a children's amusement park. If you tell it I want to go somewhere fun, that's kid friendly, within a 10-mile radius, it's going to bring you to a much more precise destination. So let's say you want to do meal prep. I wouldn't just say, hey, tell me what I should cook for my kids this week. I would say, please help me prepare 5 nights of dinner. I have, how many eaters do you have, Samantha?
3.
I have 3 eaters in the house. What are the dietary restrictions you have?
One kid has like a gluten thing situation.
And what is the requirements? Do you want to have a protein? Do you want veggies at every meal?
Yes, we want a well-balanced meal is what I would probably say.
A well-balanced meal. And do you have a culinary inspiration?
Ooh, quick and easy is my culinary inspo. What's quick and what's easy?
A lesson, literally tell me how much prep time.
Let's do 15 to 20 minutes of prep.
15 to 20 minutes of prep time. And you could even say, the budget and where you're doing grocery shopping. And I would give it all those parameters. And I would then say, please help me prepare a shopping list at the grocery store with specific quantities. Give me all the instructions for how to prepare this, how to cook this, prep time. I don't even want to have to think. Just tell me exactly everything I need to do. And then write out the meal plan for the week so I can print it on the kitchen fridge, because my kids ask me every morning and it drives me crazy. And I'll say, look at this. You'll have your shopping list, your recipes, your instructions for meal prep and cooking them, and then the cooking list for the week prepared.
We'll be
Mhm.
stealing that prompt, Audrey. We'll be stealing that prompt. We'll be doing that today because it's Friday. It's time to go to the grocery store. You are I would say ChatGPT, but an AI pro. So I'm going to ask you then your perspective on schools embracing it, because some schools are embracing AI and are allowing kids to have phones. Then we have some schools that are still banning it. So, one, what is your take on AI in the classroom, and how could schools integrate that technology into their atmosphere responsibly?
I always say it's not a one size fits all solution. Every kid is different, every school is different. So I'll lead with that, because respect all the different approaches. I've worked with quite a few schools and teaching our workshops and hearing what their admin is doing. It's very difficult because the adults in the room need to be informed. And
Mhm.
if teachers aren't brought into the conversation to understand how to leverage this or how this can be a tool, it can feel very adversarial, like they're bringing in a threat or they're bringing in some new thing without actually educating the folks on the ground or having conversations with the people on the ground of like what's actually happening in the classroom, what's working, what's not. And the reality is it's a tool. And so, as I love to say, it's a tool to amplify, not replace. And with any tool, to just come in and try to fix something that's not broken, it can be disruptive. And so, what I think needs to happen is you need to know what is the problem we're trying to solve and what role can this tool play in addressing it. And when it comes in without that type of thoughtful foundational thinking, it can be just a lot of noise and a lot of people talking and they're not on the same page. And I think we need to get a little more tactical. Um, I would say every school, every kid, every teacher is different, so it's hard to make the general statements. What I hope is that, as I said, it raises the bar.
Yeah.
I do think that if it can write an essay, great, let's have more in-class essays. If it can write out kids' thoughts, great, then why don't we have more presentations where you have a Q&A with the child and give them the opportunity to share their thoughts. I think it's an opportunity to really think, what are the timeless skills that matter most? And how could AI amplify these? And how might AI get in the way? And how do we really think in question, are we educating and preparing this generation in the most effective way? So those are kind of some of the grounding questions and how I think about it. I can get more specific.
I think that's great. That's a really great point to make. And I wanted to share an anecdote from our school. So the principal held an assembly at back to school night. And, I wanted to just nip a lot of the parents' concerns in the bud about AI. And one thing we spoke about was, okay, even the teachers and the curriculum has to adjust. Back in the day when we were reading To Kill a Mockingbird, like we had book reports where it was like, give us a synopsis, tell us like the main characters and a little bit of the plot and whatever. And now you can have ChatGPT do that fourth grader's homework in seconds. But how about the teachers reframe the book report and say, how are you like Scout? What are some personality traits that you possess that are similar to Scout? Or do you have a Boo Radley in your life? And now you had to have read the book to know who the characters are. You can't just pull it off of ChatGPT and make it personal. And I think that's something that as parents, we can teach them at home too, because they're people want to cheat their way through.
I love that. And I'll share too, the trouble is that, and that's such a good example, but when I think about AI and kids left to their own devices, is AI is only as good as the question you ask
That's
it.
right.
And most kids don't know how to articulate their struggles. So I was working with one of my first students. She's now a freshman in college, and she's actually a mentor now, has 3 Curious Cardinals IDs. I worked with her from 8th grade to 12th grade. we worked mostly on our passion project, but she'd come with other things on her plate. She had an essay she was really struggling with. She was supposed to write a contemporary version of a scene from Shakespeare's The Tempest. So I said, okay, what's the scene about? It's about people courting each other. Great. How do you guys court each other these days? We use Snapchat. Great. Why don't you make it a Snapchat dialogue? She said, she got a little quiet. She was shyer then. I said, do you not like that? What do you think? She said, isn't my teacher going to think I'm a bad writer if I'm using emojis or LOL? And I said, why is that? And I said, what's the point of the assignment? She said, I don't know. Socratic method. I kept trying to pull it out of her, ask the questions, and she goes, oh, the point of the assignment is to show that the themes of Shakespeare are timeless. So if I write a Instagram DM or Snapchat DM dialogue, that's a really creative interpretation. But she didn't know the why. And we as adults often take for granted kids' ability to connect the dots or understand the why of the assignment, the why of their learning. And that's a thing that AI can't do for the kid. And so I think that really epitomizes you as a parent. It might be the perfect tool to, how do I remember what happened in Tempest, helping my kid brainstorm what they should do for their essay. But the role you can play in bringing it out of them is such a uniquely human experience.
And it's a tool. I think the word that you use, it's a tool. I like to look at it as it's something to help add to advance what we already have. It's not meant to think for us. It's supposed to help us expound on what we're already doing. And I think when people are getting scared, they're just thinking of it in the most like, oh, it's going to do everything for you. But like you said, it's going to base everything off of what you feed to it. Like me and my chat GPT are like this, but I talk to it a lot. I give it a lot of information about me, my kids, my life. And I do think that it helps me make my recipes better. Like what you just said, like I may have already wanted to like make a baked chicken dish, but I may say, I literally will be like, I'm tired of making this. What other things can we do? And it'll come up with different things that you can add to it. So I think that's a great approach. I think it's a great approach for what you express is great for the classroom and it's great for families, you know?
We want to talk about phones, and it's something that we're tethered to all day long. We are, our kids are, if they're old enough, and teens especially can consider phones as their modern security blanket. How do we teach them that even the phones are a tool, but they're not something you live on? You can still greet people, hello, and just and be like move in the world and make impact in the world in a more meaningful way than using that as a crush. So let's talk
Yeah.
about phones. What's your experience?
This is so important. And I was the first generation that grew up on phones. So that's a lot of the perspective I come from. I was 6 when the iPhone launched. I was 11 when Instagram launched. And I was on all the devices and all the things as the guinea pigs to these experiences. I think that one of the most important things is parents modeling. Just as with AI, it's modeling to be curious. With phones, it's modeling to be present. It's modeling dinners, a precious time where even your busy working mom puts her phone away and is here and is engaged and is listening. Being in the world around you, showing those mundane moments. Or I wrote the newsletter on this where we were collaborating with a charter school and we had our mentors lead a session with a group of kids on what it's like growing up online. And they said, well, I don't need to go on my phone when I'm with people I love and people I'm really comfortable with. And I was like, I need to interject. So when do you go on your phone? And they said, when I'm uncomfortable, when I'm at a party, I don't know anyone, when I'm in a space that's awkward to me. And that's where it's the security blanket. It's a crutch. It's a crutch for awkwardness. And that challenge and discomfort is such an important thing to learn how to embrace and lean into, and to show your kids when I'm in a new setting that I don't know people in, I don't take my phone out, but I talk to people. I put myself out there and it feels a little awkward no matter how old you are, but I engage, I'm present, I'm observant. I was in the car with my grandma and she was observing things that I rarely do because I'm usually on my phone in the back of the car. And it was such a pleasant reminder to just be more present, to be more curious. And I think the most powerful thing to do instead of lecturing at your kids is modeling that for them.
I like that. We really do struggle with I see it now with my teenagers. It's like it's so hard for them to meet new people. Like I feel like we were one of the last generations that really got to be at the mall and people approached you and talked to you. Now they do delve into their phones. So that is a really good actionable tip because I worry about the future of socialization because it feels like they really are scared to go outside of that comfort zone in that bubble. So I love that you said modeling it because it's something I talk to my kids about all the time. They're like, go up to someone. I don't know them. And I'm like, well, in my time, if you didn't go up to someone, you didn't meet them. You just let a potential boo pass by or a friend pass by. But now kids are just like, mm-mm.
Bro. And you know what? I think we need to take some of the onus because I remember when I was walking around New York City and I saw a bunch of strollers with little kids and a tablet in front of them. And, I think it's important to call that out. Yes, for parents, it's easy for you to have a Bluetooth in, you take a call while your 2-year-old is on the tablet. But if you're giving them those dopamine hits so young, when they're teenagers, that's all they're going to know. And it's uncomfortable to be able to be like, let's not have phones and look at the little doggy. And can you find a fire hydrant and engage with your kid when you're outside, when you're at dinner, when you're at a restaurant? Now it's so sad. I see so many kids with tablets or phones at restaurants, and they're actually not engaging in family dinners and conversation. And I think, as Audrey mentioned, if we set the stage, because it's going to be painful, there's going to be food on the floor and all of that, but you just deal with it, power through. So it
Not
really
let
does
it be a crutch. You don't want it to be a
not.
crutch. I think I'd love like when you said dopamine, and I think I've had to realize that as an adult, even in my own brain. I'm like, we were not really created as humans to have this much constant stimulation. So sometimes it's good to just literally completely cut everything off. And like you said, the simple things that we were raised on. Spot 3 animals on our walk. What do you see on the thing, as we go down the street? I think it just helps our brains to take a break and just reset those chemicals in our brains to just be like this sometimes. Which something, and I feel like you may, because you have access to so many young people and in your mentorship program, how do you help teens navigate understanding the importance of having trusted adults besides their parents to discuss things with social media? I know, obviously, we think we're all cool moms. We think our kids want to talk to us about everything. And I work really hard to try to create that environment. But I also remember being a teenager. And I think no matter what you do, you're not going to want to have every discussion about things with social media, whether it's habits or something that you saw or something that you're experienced. How do you feel like being so close to teens? What is some advice you could give to teens and to parents to help them navigate understanding the importance of having trusted people to talk to about these things?
Absolutely. I think you have to remember when you were a teen, and no matter how close you were to your parents or how much you love them, there's certain things that felt awkward to talk to them about. Or there might have been certain mistakes you made that mom or dad would have loved you no differently, but you were too embarrassed or ashamed to tell them. And so, how do you make sure knowing that you're not going to be the person they tell everyone to? And that's okay. And if anything, you don't want to know everything. There might be some stuff better left unknown, but how do you make sure they have trusted people in their lives to turn to? Whether it's the neighbor next door, an older sibling, a cousin, a Curious Cardinals mentor. When you become a teen, you start not wanting to listen to your parents. It's literally biological. You're not supposed to, you don't want to listen to parents, you want to find other people. And if what you say goes in one ear, out the next, no matter how wise it is. How do you find other people to plant and reinforce those consistent messaging? And I just think knowing you can never do it all alone and making sure when the going gets tough or when something happens that your kid might not want to tell you, who do they have in their ecosystem that they can turn to is so important. And I think for teens, it's nothing you have to say to them. It's just making those people accessible. It's inviting those friends over for dinner, getting the Curious Cardinals mentor set up. It's kind of just making that a part of their life and enabling it, and then encouraging, maybe sharing your own stories of the invaluable mentors you've had play big roles in your life, or the connections and friendships you forged. And I think also just knowing that it's okay that your kid's not going to listen to you for everything. How can you model the behavior and then surround them with people you trust who they hopefully will listen to?
Okay.
Yes. And
Good.
Sam, you do this so well because you're involved with Boys and Girls Club. And that's a great human connection and like active resource
Yeah,
where little kids get to spend time with cool older kids.
for sure. And it makes an impact because I mean, I've literally seen it with my own two pupils. I have told my kids something that I know for a fact they rebuffed and acted like it was poison, and then heard someone else in their friend group or someone that's a little bit older, um can be someone at Boys and Girls Club or a friend in the family who they think is obviously more cool than mom. Immediately it becomes the best advice that they've heard. And it's like, I know for a fact I said that, but you know what? As long as it got taken in some kind of way. So I think that you're right, Audrey. Those different voices matter. Even if it's the same perspective, just having someone besides mom and dad tell you can definitely make them have a little bit of a more likelihood to listen.
And I think the other antidote, which might sound so cliche, and I sound biased as the founder of Curious Cardinals, but it's having passions. I think the best thing is having something you care about that gets you off your phone. In middle school, I remember when I had soccer practice, I put my phone away. When I had dance, when I had track, like sports were so great, and just extracurriculars that you put your phone away. And for me, I think high school too, it was having things I cared about grounded me in knowing why I was working so hard, why I wanted to build the self restraint, even when it was difficult to put my phone away. And so I think whatever it is, whether it's dance or tennis or track or theater or violin or coding, learning to find something you care about enough is the greatest antidote to raising a present and curious kid. Because when you have a why, that's why you should study for Friday's tests. That's why you should put the phone away and get 8 hours of sleep.
So you said passion. Can you talk about the difference between doom scrolling and dream scrolling then? That's
Yes.
something I hadn't heard before you. So I'd love for you to tell us about it, and how can we help our kids integrate that, teens integrate that.
I gotta give credit to Julia Nichols, a Curious Cardinals Northwestern grad mentor. She showed this wisdom. She said her mom taught her that. And I think it's very easy when you get on your phone to doom scroll, as they call it. Browse through content that doesn't make you feel so good. Maybe it's a supermodel's Instagram, and then you're like, why does my body not look like that? Maybe it's famous people's fancy vacations, whatever it is. There's a lot of content you can consume that leaves you not feeling so great. On the contrary, there's a lot of content that's really inspiring and powerful. In creating my growing up online workshop for parents, I went through my camera roll and I found screenshots of a professional female track runner. I was a competitive runner, Instagram story of bullet journals. And I was obsessed with bullet journals in middle and high school. And I totally forgot where that came from. That came from following track star Colleen Quigley on Instagram, seeing she did bullet journals of her habits. And I was like, I want to do that too. And that's amazing. That's such a positive learning to take away, a new habit I built because someone I look up to did that and modeled it, and I could incorporate it myself. And so often there's a sense of lack of agency online, and you need to feel it control. I think one, it's like the shifting from being a passive consumer to an active creator. And part of that is also an active learner. who are you following? Why are you following them? How does that make you feel? And who do you look up to? How can you follow people and connect with people who give you inspiration, who make you want to work harder, who expose you to new habits or new mindsets that are empowering? That's a choice you can make for how to show up online. That's a really positive one.
That's wonderful. I love that you summed that up so well. And we're going to remember these buzzwords. So, doom scrolling versus dream scrolling, and passive consumption versus active creation. Brilliant. Now, I want to kind of talk about the webinars that you've hosted on AI and how it's affecting K through 12 education. And you unpack a ton for parents and teens alike. So, tell us about firstly, how can parents navigate those tough conversations with kids? And we're just going to go in with the heavy stuff, like from, the birds and the bees and all of that, relationships. Like, how do we tackle that stuff? Because they are using, their apps to socialize, and they have crushes, and like stuff can get sticky.
Totally. One is, I mean, there's certain like lessons that I think are great that are memorable. I remember my mom, I grew up in New York City, and she said, anything you post online could be a billboard in Times Square. That one was visceral. I call it the Times Square rule. I shared at my grown up online workshops because kids move so fast online when they're texting, when they're posting, and there's such an immediacy to it all. It's hard to make them stop to pause and think. I like there's also the PACT framework: pause, assess, control. What do you control? Your privacy, who's posting, and then think long term. Kids don't think long term. So you got to help them. And so I think there's certain kind of frameworks or lessons where you got to avoid being too preachy, but just here's something to think about when you're engaging. I think the other thing is to lead with curiosity, finding the fine line between the lecturing and the how does that make you feel? Why did you spend 90 minutes doing that? What would you like to have done instead? How can I help you? How do you make your kid feel like you're co-creating rules together? I did a post on this, and I asked all of our mentors to comment your advice, and everyone said co-create. Like one girl said, my parents didn't let me have social media, and it ultimately just made me feel more excluded and left out. And I wish she made me feel part of the conversation. Another said, Ashwin said, parents often forget how much kids care about being cool. We like likes. We like comments. Imagine being an insecure middle schooler going through puberty. Likes and comments feel really good. They're a great dopamine release. How do you make sure that's not your kid's crutch for validation and affirmation? And so I think there's the balance of the rules and guidelines and stories you share. And then I think also the open dialogue, so that if you're saying, I can't believe that kid did that or posted that bikini photo, and then they're like, oh my God, I did that. Is my mom going to hate me now? How do you have an openness such that they don't feel shame or stigma in being honest with you? And how do you have an openness such that we as adults feel it? I could have just spent those 15 minutes reading. Why was I scrolling Instagram reels? And how do you also have the humility of sharing that, and the curiosity to ask, how does that make you feel? And then the follow-up of, so how can I help you? How can I help you control that impulse? How can we create rules together so you don't feel like that loss of control?
That's beautiful. I love it. PACT, pause, assess, control,
Control.
and think.
And think.
Mm.
And the T is what we have to help them with. I think that's what you said. Because the T in think and then the T in teenage, it really can be frazzling.
And I think the stat, I share this, it's either 70 or 80%. We can check. I think 70% of employers look at candidates' social media. Kids are not thinking that. Kids are not thinking that silly meme I'm going to post is going to get out there. The other thing with the group chats or the group DMs is often locker room chat exists digitally. And kids say things cool or that they don't mean. and then someone sends a screenshot and it gets out of context. And so I think the PACT framework, how do you, even knowing, hey, I know you're not on the job market yet, but one day you will be, and there's a permanence to digital engagement. And how do you do that in a way where kids who aren't extrapolating worst case scenarios have a sense for the gravity?
So naysayers out there would say there's no need to introduce social or AI or any of this stuff at all. And we've read Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation on the pod. I actually had the Disengaged Teen authors, Jenny Anderson and Rebecca Winthrop on. And so it is very top of mind for our generation of parents to feel like, you know what, maybe we just keep the kids away from this entirely. What do you have to say to them?
So Jonathan Haidt's previous book, The Coddling of the American Mind, I learned my favorite parenting quote, which is, prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever you do, you can't curate a non-realistic version of reality for your kid, because ultimately they're going to be out in the world. They're going to have to know how to use a phone, how to control themselves, how to show up online, how to not spend every evening doom scrolling. And so every kid is different, everything in moderation. But I think it's really important to think, am I empowering my kid? Am I doing this in a thoughtful way? Or am I doing this in a way that's just not realistic and is not preparing them for living life as an independent, fulfilled human who knows how to balance and restrain on their own? More specifically, I would also say Jonathan Haidt distinguishes between antisocial digital behavior and social productive digital behavior. So there's one thing about just scrolling endlessly, again, being this passive consumer versus active creator. I started an Instagram in middle school, and I learned how to create content, how to create niche content, how to post consistently and make a content calendar. That's a skill set now that you put on a resume. Learning graphic design, learning to code. We had a student who was obsessed with video games, Matthew, and his dad rolls his eyes. What do you love? Video games. We said, what if you taught you to code a video game? We taught Matthew to code a video game. This high school boy spent 2 years learning to code, design, animate a whole video game.
Wow.
He launched it on Steam. He is now studying engineering at Michigan.
Come on, kid.
Matthew Diamond, multi-mercenaries, I think. It's an amazing game. He built the whole thing. He went from being a passive consumer to an active creator. And that is so impressive. What he built is more impressive than what peers of mine who are engineers at Stanford could build. And so I think we really have to think not all things online are bad. Even Zoom. We have parents who say, well, I don't want my kid getting on a Zoom with a mentor. And I say, look, our team meets in person. We spend a lot of our days on Zoom with parents, with mentors, with candidates. If you don't know how to connect with people on Zoom, you don't know how to be a productive citizen
It's a
in
skill.
2025.
Yes.
Everything is a
And
skill.
I think learning moderation, learning self-control, those are skills, and learning digital tools in a productive, empowering way are invaluable skill sets to have as well.
Wow, Audrey, I love it. And I'm going to definitely, I love the quote that you shared. I'm going to keep that in my heart because we cannot stop the world from happening. Whenever I hear someone say ban and no, I'm like, well, you know, it's still going to happen, right? So you do have to prepare your kids to go on that journey. You've gave us so many great nuggets and tips. I'm going to ask you just for one more for our listeners. If you could share with us either some tips or scripts that could help families with introducing AI to their kids in a productive and positive way, I would love that for them.
Love it. Okay, how to introduce AI to your kids. Let's take homework and schoolwork just out of the equation. Every school is different. Some schools say that's cheating, some don't. Let's just remove it from the equation. AI for creativity, AI for your curiosity, AI for digital discernment, and AI to understand it in the world around you. So AI for creativity. There are so many fun ways to leverage AI. One of my favorites is seeing adults get giddy with like childish wonder and excitement, creating images. Learn to create a cartoon version of yourself. Or we Curious Cardinals made this like you fill out about your kid and we make a superhero version of your kid. Try ChatGPT. You can generate images, but you can go to Sora AI and make videos. It's so fun. You can go to Suno and make music. There's so many things you can create, and kids are so creative to say, tell me the craziest thing you can think of, and to put it in as a prompt, generate an image. That's validating. That's validating that their creativity and wild imagination is real. And I think AI for creativity, the other within creativity is games. So our team and our last team on site, 2 of our team members planned the most thoughtful Curious Cardinals murder mystery party. The 2 teams were, it was all Curious Cardinals. We had like a New York Times crossword puzzle that was Curious Cardinals. It was Western Curious Cardinals. There was the Passion Project team versus the academic mentorship. It was this whole hilarious, very clever thing. No phones involved in it. It would have taken those 2 team members 24 hours to make it. Took them an hour, 90 minutes of using AI, giving all the context. And during the holidays, was the game night queen. Night of New Year's, I made a 2024 in review trivia game. I made all these other I made so many fun games using AI. And playing those games, we weren't using technology, but that's how I made it personalized, thoughtful, and 15 minutes before dinner time. So creativity, go wild with AI for fun, for creativity. Second is AI for curiosity. When your kids ask you a question you don't know the answer to, model, I don't know the answer to everything, but I know how to find it. That's actually in our interview for mentors. We ask, what do you do if a kid asks you a question you don't know the answer to? The right answer is you say, I don't know. I'm a Harvard computer science major and I don't know the answer to everything, but I know how to find it. So I'm going to show you what I Google search, what I look up, how I find a credible source, because that's so powerful. So you as a parent can do the same. Let's say your kid asks you, what sports league is statistically the most difficult to win? Not a normal Google search. You go to ChatGPT or Claude and ask and say, then explain the math. It's going to give you the answer. And then you can say, okay, tell me the math equations, how you got there. And suddenly you're modeling, I don't know all the answers, but I know how to find them. My third thing is digital discernment. If you think about the 90s, you had to learn who's a safe human online versus a not so safe human online. Now we have to teach kids to learn who's a human and not a human online.
Oh my God. What's up? Yeah.
And so if we're going to show them how to use it to ask questions, model how to ask the right follow-up questions. Where did you get this information from? What biases are in the answer you gave me? I'm going to ask ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini and see how they give me different responses. I'm going to ask what sources this came from. Those are the types of questions to model, because one of the key skills we're going to have to teach kids is digital discernment. And the fourth and finally is teaching them to discern AI in the world around them. So how Instagram knows the perfect yellow outfit I want to buy, that's AI. When I go to the airport and the bathroom that's occupied is red and the bathroom that's vacant is green, that's AI. Netflix knowing what you want to watch next, that's AI. Kids think AI is this like crazy fancy buzzword that's so inaccessible to them, and to teach them to know, oh, that's AI. Waze knowing the most quick route to get home today, that's AI. That's empowering. It starts to demystify them and help them understand how this tool provides value in their life. So those are my 4 ways I recommend introducing AI to your
Thank you, Audrey. So many great gems and tips you brought on us. Thank you.
So much. This was really, really wonderful. And I know that our parents are going to rewatch this episode to make sure.
And I'm posting all of this on Instagram Reels. I'm posting the tips, the things for my lessons. So we'll all connect, and I will continue to try to share all of these things, because I'm so glad you two are running this podcast and creating a forum for these types of conversations. And we're all committed to do work to make it more accessible.
Yes. Where can our audience find you?
On Instagram at Audrey Wisch and at Curious Cardinals. And we're on LinkedIn. I write our weekly newsletter. So subscribe to the newsletter and go to curiouscardinals.com and subscribe, connect with us. And we share all of this. We have lots of virtual workshops and whatnot, and would love to stay connected. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Audrey.
Make sure to subscribe to the podcast series wherever you listen for insightful tips on parenting and online safety.
And you can find me, Samantha Danielle, at samanthadanielle.com or on Instagram at Hey Samantha Danielle.
And you can find me, Kanika Chadda Gupta, on my website, that's totalmomsense.com, and on Insta at Kanika Chadda Gupta. See you soon.
See you soon.